The signal arrived on a Tuesday, not with fire or thunder, but as a clean, mathematical pulse decoded in 47 minutes by a doctoral student named Marcus Webb at the Arecibo Array Successor Station in New Mexico. Within 6 hours, every government on Earth had been notified. Within 12, the United Nations Security Council was in emergency session. Within 24, humanity learned it was not alone and that its new neighbors were not patient. We are the Vorath Conclave. You occupy a contested corridor of space. Before negotiations proceed, all species must submit a full disclosure of military capability. This is not a request. This is protocol. Ambassador Colonel James Hargrove, retired Marine, former NATO liaison, now Earth's first interstellar diplomat, read the message 3 times. Then he looked at the 12 faces around the table and said, quietly, "They want our weapons list. Fine, let's give them the full list." Nobody in the room laughed, but a few of them smiled. General Patricia Donovan had spent 31 years in logistics. She had requisitioned everything from field rations to aircraft carriers. Nothing had prepared her for this task. They want full disclosure, Hargrove had said. Every nation, every category, no omissions. The document began to grow. First, the nuclear inventory, warheads, delivery systems, yields. Then conventional forces. Then chemical and biological agents listed under treaty. Then the programs listed under no treaty at all. Then the classified files that required 3 separate clearances and a phone call to a man whose name Donovan was not authorized to speak aloud. When the database was compiled, it ran to 942 pages. It described, in precise technical language, 14,000 nuclear warheads, enough conventional explosives to reshape coastlines, autonomous weapons systems, hypersonic delivery platforms, orbital strike capabilities, and 17 categories of technology that Earth's own international law considered crimes against humanity, stockpiled by at least 4 nations, just in case. General Donovan stared at the final page count for a long time. "Send it," she said. "All of it. Unredacted. / Earth Unified Military Disclosure. Document Ref. UNS 0001. Transmission begins. Nuclear arsenal. 14,000 warheads. Active/reserve. Yield range. 0.3 kT to 1.2 metric tons. Delivery systems. ICBM, SLBM, strategic bomber, hypersonic glide vehicle. Orbital platforms. 3 nations maintain classified strike-capable assets in LEO. Autonomous systems. 41 classified drone swarm programs. Kill decision latency 0.4s. Chemical agents. 7 categories retained outside CWC compliance. Biological research. 12 programs operating under dual-use designation. Note: the above represents declared capability only. Undeclared capability is, by definition, not listed here. Estimate accordingly. / transmission ends. Awaiting Vorath response. Hargrove had insisted on that last line personally. The analyst who typed it had asked, twice, if he was certain. "Leave it," Hargrove said. "Let them wonder what we're not showing them." The silence lasted 19 hours. Long enough that Marcus Webb drank 4 cups of coffee and seriously considered that he had somehow decoded the original message wrong. Long enough that 3 governments began drafting evacuation protocols. Long enough that the word mistake started appearing in classified memos. Then the reply came. Clarification required. Your document lists weaponry capable of rendering your own planet uninhabitable multiple times over. This is atypical. Most species submit partial disclosure to appear non-threatening. You have submitted a document that describes a species capable of extinguishing itself and apparently comfortable discussing this in writing. Are you attempting intimidation, or is this an error? Hargrove read the message. He passed it to Donovan. She passed it back. Neither, he typed back. "We were asked for full disclosure. This is full disclosure. We've had these weapons pointed at each other for 100 years. We haven't used them. We thought that context might be relevant." Another silence. Shorter this time. 40 minutes. "You are aware that the Vorath Conclave has never encountered a species that voluntarily disclosed the capacity for self-annihilation as a diplomatic opening position. We're aware. And you consider this normal. We consider this Tuesday. What Hargrove could not see, what no human would learn for another 6 years, was the scene unfolding aboard the Vorith flagship Urathvel, 7 light minutes from Earth. High Commander Orithvon stood before the Conclave's 12-seat War Council. He had his analyst's report in hand. He had read it 4 times. His secondaries, the smaller pair of arms native to Vorith physiology, were pressed tight against his chest. A sign, in Vorith body language, of profound unease. They have weapons sufficient to destroy themselves 11 times over, he said. They disclosed this willingly. They have maintained these weapons in a state of active readiness for over a century without using them on external targets. They appear to regard this restraint as unremarkable. Counselor Sivatal leaned forward. What is our threat assessment? Orithvon was quiet for a moment. The Merrick Dominion, the most aggressive species we have encountered in 400 years of expansion, submitted a disclosure of 6 planetary bombardment platforms and called themselves well-armed. These creatures are sitting on 14,000 individually targeted nuclear devices, acknowledge they have more they did not list, have never used any of them offensively. He set down the report, and their opening diplomatic line was, "We consider this Tuesday." The council chamber was very still. "My recommendation," Orithvon said carefully, "is that we negotiate. Politely, without preconditions." The formal Vorith response arrived 36 hours after Hargrove's last transmission. It was brief. It was, notably, the first time in recorded Vorith diplomatic history that the Conclave had opened negotiations without demanding territorial concessions first. The Vorith Conclave acknowledges the disclosure of humanity. We accept your terms for preliminary talks. One question remains, for our own understanding. How did your species survive the century in which you held these weapons pointed at yourselves? Hargrove sat back in his chair. Around him, the room was quiet. Generals, ambassadors, analysts, one doctoral student from New Mexico who had somehow ended up in the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. He thought about the Cold War, about the Cuban Missile Crisis and 13 days the world didn't end, about hotlines and treaties and the long, improbable chain of human choices, some wise, some lucky, some both, that had kept the planet breathing. He typed his answer. Stubbornness, and the occasional miracle. We're a species that builds weapons capable of ending everything, and then spends the rest of the time arguing about whether to use them. So far, the argument has always won. We're hoping to keep that streak going. Welcome to the table, Vorith. Try the coffee. It'll be a long negotiation.